Welcome to NextGen Timber, where rotten trunks, overloaded machines, hydraulic force, and split-second decisions collide deep inside the forest. If you want more extreme logging action, next-generation forestry equipment, dangerous recoveries, and real machine power from the woods, subscribe now and stay with NextGen Timber. The first machine comes in hard, the TN130D Pro, looking less like a chipper and more like a mechanical predator built to swallow timber whole. Large branches vanish into the feed system as the diesel engine and heavy flywheel keep everything moving with brutal consistency. This machine does not treat wood gently. It grabs, pulls, crushes, and converts raw branches into output without hesitation. Then the terrain takes control. The moment throttle is applied on unstable ground, the machine stops following the driver's plan and starts following gravity. Mud, slope angle, weight transfer, and poor traction all combine into the kind of recovery scene every operator wants to avoid. In forestry, you can have horsepower, but if the ground refuses to hold you, horsepower becomes nearly useless. The logger cuts deep into the leaning trunk while standing dangerously close. Then the wood splits, kicks backward, and throws debris straight toward him as the unstable tree shifts violently. It is a sharp reminder that rotten or pressured timber can behave more like a loaded spring than a normal tree. Then an excavator steps in with a massive hydraulic grinder, tearing into buried stumps with raw mechanical force. Dirt, roots, and wood fragments explode outward as the rotating head chews through the hardened base. What used to be a stubborn tree stump is reduced into shredded debris and loose soil, piece by piece. After that, we get a real lesson in bore cutting. The operator leaves extra holding wood because he already knows the trunk cannot be trusted. Rotten timber changes everything. Every cut becomes slower, more cautious, and more calculated. He checks the inside of the tree, trying to figure out how much solid wood is actually left before gravity takes over. Then the overloaded logging truck fights its way through deep mud with gigantic timber trunks stacked behind it. The hill is steep, the ground is soft, and the load is far heavier than a normal transport run. At this point, speed is not the answer. Calm hands, steady throttle, and patience matter more than brute force. Panic only turns a difficult situation into a disaster. The next surface is even worse. Thick, slippery mud turns the road into grease. Vehicles drift sideways, tires lose bite, and operators have to fight just to keep the machine pointed in the right direction. On terrain like this, staying straight becomes a skill by itself. Then a timber stack collapses near a worker and forklift. 1 second, it looks stable. The next, massive logs roll down like an avalanche. That is why stacked timber deserves respect. When heavy logs start moving, nobody nearby has much time to react. The massive processor that follows is pure industrial violence. Hydraulic claws feed branches, roots, and logging debris into the machine, while internal blades shred everything into biomass. Dust and fragments blast from the discharge chute as support vehicles keep the workflow moving. This is not cleanup. This is full-scale forest waste conversion under non-stop mechanical pressure. Then the stump grinding drill takes over, driving directly into a giant tree base. Thick chips peel away in every direction as the rotating head carves deeper through hardened timber. Layer by layer, the stump disappears until only broken wood and debris remain. Next, the operation shifts to auger force. The machine pulls itself downward while the auger rotates under pressure, turning rotational energy into steady penetration. It looks simple from the outside, but the mechanics are serious. Controlled pressure is doing the real work. Then fog and slick slopes make another logging job even more dangerous. The machine still handles timber with impressive balance, but nothing about it is easy. The operator is calculating traction, swing radius, weight shift, load balance, and terrain stability all at once. One wrong movement, and the whole machine could slide downhill. Then comes a basic but critical chainsaw warning. Avoid using the tip of the bar unless you know exactly what you are doing. Kickback happens fast. One careless angle can send the saw violently back toward the operator before there is time to react. Then nature humiliates a pickup truck. Tree versus vehicle ends exactly how you would expect, except somehow worse. Hidden weakness inside the trunk can destroy the expected fall path without warning. Another stump grinder drills into a remaining tree base near the street, blasting chunks of wood around the spinning head until the stubborn stump is reduced to shredded chips. Efficient, loud, and brutally effective. But chainsaw safety is not just protective gear. Real safety means controlling the whole environment: escape routes, nearby structures, unstable limbs, bad ground, bystanders, and every possible direction the tree might fail. The cut is only one part of the job. Then a machine drifts offline, and the center of gravity shifts hard enough that water becomes a real threat. Heavy forestry equipment is unforgiving when weight moves sideways. Once balance starts leaving, recovery options disappear fast. Another poor tree cutting attempt follows, and the technique already looks wrong before the trunk even moves. Forestry punishes impatience. A bad angle, a rushed cut, or a weak plan can destroy control instantly. Then the crane lift goes wrong. A massive tree section swings toward the truck. The tension strap stretches too far, and suddenly it snaps. Half the suspended tree crashes down, throwing branches, dust, and debris across the site as workers rush away. Lifting timber is not just about crane power. It is about rigging, balance, and knowing when a strap is being pushed beyond reason. Compromised timber appears again. Pushed too aggressively, and the trunk starts buckling inward under compression. It may look stable for 1 second, then fold in a way nobody wants to see. Next comes a reminder that homemade engineering can still work when it is built intelligently. Good welds, smart geometry, and practical design allow a custom setup to process timber without needing oversized industrial machinery. Not everything has to be expensive to be effective. Then we return to one of the worst kinds of trees, rotten through the center, leaning under its own weight, and unstable before the saw even starts. Traditional notch cutting becomes unreliable when the internal structure is already compromised. At that point, the operator is not fully controlling the tree anymore. He is negotiating with gravity and hoping the hinge wood survives long enough. When an experienced logger says, "That was one of the most dangerous trees I've ever cut," that is not drama. That is a serious warning. If someone with years in the woods says the risk was extreme, the tree was bad from the start. Then a modern forestry harvester shows the opposite side of the industry. The hydraulic head grips the freshly cut tree, rollers pull the trunk through, and blades strip branches in seconds. From inside the cab, the operator turns raw standing timber into clean processed logs with fast, automated precision. The route afterward is rough and endless. Empty roads, unstable surfaces, brutal conditions, sometimes simply finishing the job without needing recovery gear already counts as a win. Then branch trimming near a house starts feeling less like maintenance and more like demolition. When the tree reacts violently and nearly hits the cutter, the lesson is obvious. 1 second too slow could change everything. Next, an experienced logger cuts a deep notch into a giant pine, using marked guidelines to control the fall. After the back cut, the massive tree leans, crashes into a neighboring trunk, and shakes the forest with the impact. Controlled felling still carries enormous force. And when the tree finally breaks loose harder and faster than expected, the only honest reaction is shock. Sometimes reversing a vehicle just a few feet earlier could prevent a serious accident. That small decision can matter more than people realize. Not every solution needs a giant machine. Smart support design, proper leverage, and good force distribution can solve problems more safely than brute strength. The best forestry work is not always about using more power. Sometimes it is about using power correctly. Then the excavator drives its ripping claw into an old stump, splitting wood fibers under hydraulic pressure. Roots snap, hardened timber breaks apart, and the stump is destroyed piece by piece through raw crushing force. Finally, the Albac Diamant 2000 enters like an industrial monster. Crane-loaded bundles drop into the machine and disappear almost instantly. The crushing force is relentless, the speed is brutal, and watching entire piles of timber get swallowed by mechanical power is exactly why machines like this define the next generation of forestry. This is NextGen Timber, rotten trees, unstable terrain, overloaded trucks, dangerous cuts, powerful processors, homemade engineering, and machines built to fight gravity every day. If you want more extreme forestry footage, heavy timber recoveries, giant chippers, high-risk felling, and real machine action from deep inside the woods, subscribe now and join the NextGen Timber crew. Drop a comment with the craziest machine or closest call from today's video. And remember, in this industry, confidence means nothing if the forest decides otherwise.